So I recently had the pleasure of seeing Chained for Life, which is a movie about disability in film that I had found out about a few months ago and which I was really hoping to see, but I wasn't sure if I would be able to. But then it turned out to be showing somewhere that I was able to see it. So I thought I would just kind of make a short video talking about the movie and chilling for it in the hopes that if you have the opportunity to see this movie, you will know about the movie and you'll know that you might want to go see it. I might try to review it, but I actually was left feeling like a little bit confused and like I really wanted to talk to other people and hear other people's opinions, which at this point I can't really do because I can't find any discussions online about the movie. So I hope that a lot of people see the movie and this changes. So basically Chained for Life is this like meta movie within a movie. It's kind of a comedy. Like people weren't really like laughing out loud in the theater, but it's just sort of kind of humorous and pleasant to watch throughout. Spoiler alert, there's not really very much of a like plot or conflict in the movie, even though it's very engaging to watch. It's almost sort of like slice of life, I guess. And it's sort of through the concept of the movie, it kind of explores various ideas about disability in film, like non-disabled actors playing disabled characters, how disabled actors are treated, disabled actors being cast as monsters, or sort of the use of like disability and disfigurement in horror, stuff like that. Ooh, disability as metaphor is kind of a big thing also. And in addition to sort of having this kind of be kind of poked out with the main characters, you also hear other people that are working on the movie within a movie kind of having discussions about these issues that you sort of overhear. This makes the movie sound kind of didactic, but I think what I thought was kind of interesting about it is that, like, I feel like it takes all of these issues, but somehow just sort of very gently puts them in front of you in a way that, like, doesn't feel aggressive or confrontational. I'm guessing it would not even feel that aggressive, even to the type of person who's very defensive about these issues. And I feel like a lot of people are really defensive, like, if they're introduced for the first time to the idea that, like, you know, maybe this like aspect of movies is kind of fucked up, or like maybe this aspect of casting is kind of fucked up, like people can be like really furious about it. Like, you know, how could you possibly think that like this disabled character should have been played by a disabled actor? Like, you know, and there's sort of the old thing where people are always like, oh, I've never heard of that disabled actor. Like Adam Pearson, who's one of the lead actors in Chained for Life, a while ago went on this thing where there was being like a new Elephant Man movie, and he was like, why wasn't I called for this movie when I have the same condition as the Elephant Man, and they cast somebody who wasn't disfigured? And like, you know, immediately all the little comment sections were like a buzz with like, I've never heard of Adam Pearson, like he's never been the lead in any like big movies that I've heard of. And it's like, wow, why do you think that is? Anyways, so people are really defensive. And I think that, and sort of watching interviews with Adam Pearson and also the filmmaker of this movie, it was sort of obvious where they stood on things, but the way that the movie puts things forward is so kind of like gentle that it feels like even the most confrontational person like wouldn't get mad, you know, and be like, oh my gosh, political correctness has really gone too far if we're talking about disability in film. So basically the plot of the movie, such as it is that there's this movie within a movie, and it's about this blind woman in this kind of goth horror retro hospital setting where this crazy doctor is trying to cure all these people of their disabilities and disfigurements, and she falls in love with a disfigured man, but then like, would she still love him if she knows what he really looks like? That's the supposedly deep question that the movie is exploring. So the movie is mainly from the perspective of the lead actress, who isn't actually blind, and sort of towards the beginning of the movie offers this really stupid but sort of something you could imagine someone actually say, this deep explanation of why it's like not hard for a sighted person to play a blind person, where she basically says everyone is like metaphorically blind in their own way. And so it's sort of from her perspective, and then the actor Adam Pearson's character, who is playing her love interest, who's actually disfigured, comes in, and in this decision that doesn't necessarily make sense practically in the modern day, but sort of emotionally makes sense, all the disabled and disfigured actors come to the set together in this like bus after all the other cast and crew have already started filming, and so they're sort of treated as outsiders just from the beginning because of that. So it's sort of about the somewhat awkward friendship and interactions between the two main actors. And I guess I think something that's interesting, I never finished Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire, sorry, but something that I really enjoyed early in the beginning of the show and in the first book is the scene where, somebody is saying some really tacky thing about disabled people, like, wow, if I became disabled, I would just want to die. And like Tyrion Lannister is like there and he's like, well, as a disabled person, here's my feelings about that. And that's just like some real shit. I really enjoyed it there because I feel like there are so many things that ways that people talk about disability in a really othering way, or like always treat disability as a metaphor and like not something that like real people actually have, or like somehow like normal people can use disability as a metaphor for themselves without ever thinking about how that impacts or affects actual disabled people who are just being seen as a metaphor. There's this way that like that attitude just sort of immediately like disintegrates, or at least starts feeling kind of awkward as soon as like a disabled person is there. And like I can't help but think that like this might be one reason why disabled actors sometimes don't get cast to play disabled characters, because it's just too fucking awkward to have to actually think about how certain things feel or come off when you're reminded that disabled people are really real and not just somebody who's like acting or wearing a prosthetic or something. And yeah, I just feel like this is sort of a big thing in the movie. Like the movie that they're filming is so obviously shitty about disability, but it's really easy to be like, woo, and like kind of pretentious about it. But then like they're like sitting right there, you know? So what else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so that's basically the concept of the movie. There's one part of the movie, like, it sort of gets more surreal in the second half, and I would say, like, the part of the movie that I thought was the best is this sort of short sequence where some of the disabled actors are either making their own movies or, like, fantasizing about the movies that they would want to make. And I feel like that's the point where the movie was kind of, like, the most fun, and also sort of, like, to me, started to feel, like, more angry. Like, I think it's almost the only part where the movie was kind of being confrontational, because it was sort of able to just be confrontational through showing that like these characters were feeling confrontational without having to actually say that that was like, the personality of the movie itself. um anyway, the movie was really cool. The end of the movie, there's this really weird scene, and I'm just like super curious. Wow, I figured out a way to get engagement on my videos, except it's not going to happen because probably no one has seen this movie. But if you were interested in like the second to last scene of the movie, which is very odd, and I'm just really wondering like what was going on, please tell me your thoughts about that, because I haven't been able to find anyone's thoughts about that scene on the entire internet. Anyway, I would really recommend seeing Chain for Life if it's showing near you, or if you have some other way to see it. It's really cool.